Good morning, YouTube. This is Chuck, and it's Tuesday, January 28th, 2025, and about 5:30 in the morning. And let me take these glasses off and see if I can. Yeah, I think that'll get rid of that reflection. That'll be a bit better. But I had a pretty interesting day yesterday, and I figured I'd tell you about it. This is going to be a Bigfoot-related video, and I had 3 long-distance calls. One from Minnesota. One from Florida and one from Texas. And thought you might be interested in it, so I thought I'd take the opportunity first thing this morning before I got busy doing anything to tell you about it. It's not as cold as it usually is in the living room this time of morning because old Chuck forgot to turn the thermostat down when he went upstairs last night. So it's actually kind of a balmy 60 degrees in here. I got the fireplace on. But anyway, let me tell you about these 3 phone calls. First thing yesterday morning, I got a telephone call from a viewer who I've had contact with before and lives up in Minnesota. And he works for a construction company. And he was actually out on a job in a rural area on a wildlife preserve. And what they were doing is up there it's been bitterly cold like it normally is in Minnesota, but they haven't had any snow, and so they're taking advantage of the conditions, and they're on a job putting gravel on a frozen road. And my first thought was I kind of wondered about that, but it makes sense if they go in there when it's frozen, they can drive the big dump trucks in there and they can put the gravel there, and then when the spring thaw comes, the gravel's already there, and they don't have to try to wrestle with the mud. And I guess that's a common practice up there, and that's actually kind of smart. But this was a very rural area, and this guy is pretty savvy, and he was getting the feeling that there was somebody there that was not happy with them doing that. And I told him, yeah, I'm sure you're absolutely right. It's going to bring more people in there. And, in Minnesota, they have, the locals joke that they have 3 seasons. They have summer, winter, and mud. And of course, going in there and putting the gravel on a frozen road, you don't have to deal with the mud. And so, and it's better for the big dump trucks. And so it makes total sense. And I told him, I said, look at it from the forest people's standpoint. They don't want more people coming into this very remote, rural, protected area. And so, yeah, there's probably somebody there, and they're probably not real happy that you're there. And so I asked him, I said, just try to reach out and tell them you're just trying to make a living for your family, and this is your job. And he said he probably wouldn't have time to do that because they were kind of busy, and he was actually on the job when he was talking to me. But I thought that one was pretty interesting. So that was the first thing yesterday morning, actually about roughly this time. Well, then yesterday afternoon, I got a call from the lady from my last video, the lady I called Sandy. And she finally got back with me. And the reason why she hadn't got back with me earlier is because she'd actually been out of town. They'd been traveling, and I mentioned in the video that they were getting ready to move out of state. This would be the lady I called Sandy, the 4th segment of that video that I shot the other day. But anyway, they were actually out of state, and they were actually bought a place. And but anyway, so I talked to her, and she said she told me that they were actually on the way back home from their trip, and it was her turn to drive. And so she had the headphones on, and she was looking for something to listen to while she was driving. And she said, my video popped up, and so she started listening to it. And when I got to the 4th segment, she realized I was talking about her. And she thought that was pretty cool. And she told me I could use her real name. Her name isn't Sandy. Her name is actually Stephanie. And so she told me it was fine to use her full name. Well, as a sidebar to that, the lady I talked about just before, Serena, and Serena is her actual name, when she had seen that video, she immediately reached out to me and said, I want to talk to this lady. And so I asked Stephanie if it was okay to give Serena her contact information. Well, it turns out that uh, Stephanie kind of works. I don't know how you describe it. Maybe a little bit. Maybe you could describe it as a life coach. And she totally understands the paranormal stuff. And of course, you know that by if you watch the video. And so anyway, one of the things she does is she actually helps people who have anxiety problems. And Stephanie has anxiety problems, or not Stephanie. Serena has anxiety problems, and so she said, well, yeah, it'd be fine. Give her my contact information. Maybe I can help her. So I did that, and I haven't heard back from either one of them yet, but I thought that was interesting enough to share with you. Was it a coincidence that they both happened to reach out to me at about the same time? Folks, I've gotten to the point where I just don't believe in coincidences anymore. I think there's something to that. So anyway, yesterday, I didn't work on my old truck yesterday because it was cold and blustery and it was threatening to rain, and we did get a little bit of rain, and we got a little dusting of snow last night. I just looked out the window and checked. But anyway, so I worked on an inside project. Well, fast forward to last evening, I was just thinking about going upstairs and going to bed, and I get a phone call from another viewer who I've had contact with before. And he was actually camped out. And he told me that he was in a place, in a place with a lot of history of activity in eastern Texas. And I immediately came back to him and I said, yeah, I'll bet you're somewhere near Toledo Bend Reservoir, aren't you? He said, how'd you know that? Well, yeah, I guess it was a lucky guess, but anyway, somehow or other, I thought that was probably where he was at, and it turned out that was exactly where he was at. Well, he was having something. He was sitting out, and he's been doing this for quite a while, and but he always doubts himself, and that's normal. We all do that. I do that a lot. And but anyway, he had something a little bit odd happen, and he thought maybe it might be Sasquatch related. So I talked to him a little bit. He told me about it, and then I started asking questions through him. Well, it turned out, yeah, they were there, and there was 11 of them, and he actually got a name of a 3-year-old, and the 3-year-old had shapeshifted into something you wouldn't expect. He was a large spider, and the large spider was just sitting there staring at my friend, and he obviously had lights on, otherwise he wouldn't be able to see the spider. But he watched the stuff where I talked about shape-shifting and stuff like that. So I said, well, talk to him. Just talk to him. Ask him what his name is. Well, so he asked him. I said, did you get a name? He says, no. He says, I didn't get anything. Well, I did. And it took me a little bit to get it because it was pretty faint. But I definitely knew I had something that started with a T-E. But it took me about 3-4 tries. And I believe what it was, and I'm still not 100% sure, but I believe it was Timu. And so we asked Timu how old he was. And it turned out my friend got the number 3. And so we think that, we think that was a little Sasquatch, and that his name was Timu. And if the spider wasn't him shapeshifted, then Timu was there close somewhere. Well, and I told him, I said, the big ones, the older ones they're not very far away. And I had the impression, I don't know how I got it, I had the impression that there was an adult just off to his left. So I told him, I said, turn to your left and ask if there's somebody there, and if they will give him some kind of a sign that they're there. If they will, break a stick, whistle, stomp your foot, do something to let him know that you're actually there. So he did, and he got zapped. So that was pretty cool. And I was kind of getting the tingle all the while this was going on. Here, clear back here, where I was talking to him over the phone, and he's in East Texas. And so I actually got a sense that one to his left that zapped him was actually the mom. And then, like I said, I asked him about numbers. I asked how many there were there, and he solidly got back to number 11. Well, he's been doing this for quite a while, but he still doubts himself, and like I say, that's common. So I talked to him for actually quite a while last night, almost an hour. And while he's sitting in a chair out in East Texas somewhere, and in the woods, in a very remote area, and surrounded by forest people. So there was 3 little incidences that happened yesterday, 3 long phone calls, and just I guess an example of what my day is like. And today it's supposed to be blustery and cold again today, so I'm not quite sure what I'll do. But I figured I'd take the opportunity this morning to bring you those 3 little snippets and talk about those 3 phone calls. And so I've got to do my morning post yet. I haven't done that yet, and I'll upload this as soon as I get done with that. So I wish you all a good day, and as always, take care of each other, love each other, take care of yourself, and I'll be back with you again with another one. I still got one I'm working on, to bring you some updates on my friend from Utah and some stuff that happened with me. But I figured these little snippets were too good not to share. So until I talk to you again, let me just tell you, peace out.